my heart would start pounding. I start sweating. I start yelling at my wife and dog for no reason.
The dude couldn't play, and that was simple as that. But we knew that 2 years ago. The dude couldn't.
Isn't like proficient and like he isn't on his game. You can't start in week 1.
If you earn the spot and you're the better player, your ass should be playing. Period.
I would have it Carlton Davis on one side and Terry and Arnold on the other.
And welcome to the Detroit Lions News Show, your number one source for Detroit Lions news. And we have a whole host of experts here. We have Ted Rath, 16-year NFL coach. I think you guys will know him. You're going to love him. We also have Walter Stringer with Lions Avenue. Please subscribe. And we have Eazy and Stefan Logan. What's going on, fellas? I'm going to sit back here and produce, and this is a live interactive show. So please leave your comments, and our podcasters. Well, actually, the way I thought about it, we got a player, we got a coach, we got a big-time podcaster, and we have a scout. You can't find any kind of better show than this. Take it away, you guys.
What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Detroit Lions News Show. We are actually blessed to be joined by, like you said, coach, former player, both former Detroit Lions. Also, my guy, Walt. What up, man, from Lions Avenue? And big-time matchup for Detroit Lions this week. Ted formerly worked with Ben Johnson. That's great news. And Jared Goff. We got a little, maybe a couple of inside scoops or inside the minds. And Stefan Logan. Steph, I haven't really got to speak to you too often. How you feeling about this new dynamic kickoff? Am I going – you probably get asked it all the time, huh?
Man, you know what? A friend of mine asked me about it the other day, and I was like, I still don't like it. It's really not doing anything, to be honest with you. It's still the same way. They bring the ball to the 35. I'm like, yeah, all right, but they're not giving guys opportunity to return the ball like they should. If they not, I feel like if they not gonna do it, they just take it out. Just take it out and just get it out of the way, because I feel like that's where they want to go with it anyway. So to just kill all the nonsense, just take the kickoff return out, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, Steph, an interesting part of that too, Easy. Statistics have gone up, so penalties are going up because they have more returns. They're in a shorter distance, shorter field area, but penalties are going up. It's slowing the game down. There's a greater impact to this from just, hey, are they bringing the ball out or not? And what's the average starting position?
It makes sense, man. And yeah, it's crazy because it was sold to us as fans. They try to make it sound like, maybe we'll see them in big time games. Obviously a lot of coaches like to take risks. But I thought we were going to see a lot more freaky stuff out there, a little backward passes and stuff like that. It just ain't been that, Walt.
My question is there any actual data that backs, like if we go back let's go back 10 years. Is there any data? And Steph, you played in the league. You guys have been around the league a long time. Were guys leaving games who played on special teams exclusively with more concussions than guys who played as far as the actual end game? Because it seemed like they were taking special teams and kind of throwing special teams under the bus as far as, well, you're the reason that these guys are getting these concussions, and we don't want to change too much offensively and defensively. So what we'll do is we'll just remove special teams aspect from the game. Because it just seems weird that they would just exclusively focus on the special teams like that. I don't remember watching too many games where guys were leaving with concussions who played on special teams. Maybe they were. I don't know.
That's a great point, Walt. I think when you actually look at injury statistics, the punt play is much higher prevalence of injury. Now, you're not just talking concussion on that particular play. You're talking about a lot of lower extremity injuries. I served on the NFL's lower extremity soft tissue injury task force. A ton of injuries from a lower extremity standpoint, specifically soft tissue, occur during the punt plays. You look at what the gunners are doing. You look at the vice. You got two guys pulling and physically dominating, one guy sprinting at full speed, full capacity. You get a go contraction between the quadriceps and the hamstrings. you're going to have a breakdown at some point. So that's where we see a lot of the hamstrings, a lot of calves, a lot of groin injuries during that punt play. So I think when you start to look at it, special teams does get a bad rap, but yeah, kickoff might have a higher incidence from concussion. I don't know the exact statistics, but I believe it was a little bit higher. But that's a great point, Walt, because you got players on 11 versus 11 offense versus defense that are still getting injured, but we adjust the kickoff, but not the punt when that's a higher prevalence of injury. So that's a great point.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true when you look at the game. I mean, you got guys that's running downfield that's going 100 miles an hour because they start the game off and they amped up. They got so much adrenaline going, and the impact that that coach just said, like, you playing punt return. I mean, you on punt. You got the gunners. Those guys are getting double teamed. They snatching, they grabbing, tugging on jerseys, and it's a lot of lower body injuries. You know, you got ankles getting twisted. You got Achilles. You got quads. You got all kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a physical sport at the end of the day. Like, quarterbacks is getting hurt. I mean, it don't matter. It's a physical sport. So, like I say, I feel like if you're gonna take away one facet of the game, just take it out completely instead of trying to pick around it and use and say, you know, special teams is the cause and they having all these concussions,
Right.
and I feel like that's what it is.
But so, Steph, what is the mentality of a kick returner or a punt returner? Because, you know, back in the day, if you were the shortest guy and you were like really fast and you were shifty, they put you on punt return. They put you on kickoff returns. You might be 5'8", 175 pounds, or a punt kick returner might be 6 foot, 210. What is the mentality of it, man? Because you hear, oh, he's too small to play offense, or he's too small to play defense, but he's not too small to return punts. Like, it's crazy. Like, what is the mentality with these guys out here on punt return, man?
Well, I feel like they do stereotype smaller guys. You don't really see too many small guys out there in the NFL right now. And then I feel like they always say, okay, he's too small to do something. But then at the same time, you got some guys that's too big to do something. I done seen guys. I mean, I done seen Ezekiel. I done seen Zeke block somebody, block a linebacker, and get ran into the quarterback. Like, and he's 200 and something pounds. So I could do the same thing he just did, get knocked to the quarterback. So I think they should stop using the size factor all the time and just let a guy play football. When you seen him in college, you wasn't saying he was too small for you to draft him or recruit him or bring him in as a free agent. But as soon as they get to the NFL, now he's too small. He's too small to do this, too small to do that. But like you said, he's not too small to go back there and catch a punt or catch a kickoff return. You got guys bearing down his back. So he's not too small for that, but he's too small to play running back, or he's too small to go across the middle. He's too small, you know, to block a 250-pound deep linebacker. He's too small. Now his size plays a role, but his size don't play a role when he's on kickoff, gunner, or kickoff return.
So, yeah, the whole kickoff, the dynamic kickoff, I thought we'd see a lot more brilliant schematics out of the coaching staffs. However, speaking of coaching staffs, Ted, you worked with a brilliant current Detroit Lions coach and Ben Johnson, and last outing he had against Mike McDonald and the Mike McDonald defense in Baltimore, it wasn't so great. You've been around the guy. Is that something that he got the competitive edge where that's going to eat away at him? Is he grinding that film all week and looking to get that lick back? What can we expect for the Detroit Lions offense against a greedy Mike McDonald defense?
Yeah, Ben's great. I mean, first and foremost, I think when you look at him, he's a competitor by heart. To answer that question, absolutely. The guy, he would be on the early bus and the early cars with us going to the stadium because he's running stadium stairs before the game because he wants to stay physically locked in. That helps him emotionally. So I've known this guy for years. Ben is a stud. I'm not worried. I have zero hesitations where he will show up and he will get it corrected. And he's probably been grinding his butt off all week. And then the other side of that, the counter, it's Jared, it's Goff. You know, you look at the offense, who's the commander of that offense. Those guys have to be in such a partnership. When you look at the offensive coordinator and the quarterback, and the head coach obviously plays a role within that. Those guys I know have a great relationship. They really enjoy each other. They trust each other. And that's a big factor. That's a huge factor that not a lot of people really talk about sometimes until there's a problem. But when you have that trust and that connection between those people, you're going to have a chance. So Ben, I have no doubt, no hesitation, he'll get in there. Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, I was with him in Philly too. You guys have great coordinators. When you look at the Detroit Lions staff, the makeup all the way down from what Brad Holmes has done and built, he was a guy I worked with in LA. You have phenomenal people in that building, and they've done a really good job. So I have zero hesitation. Ben's going to get it figured out.
Yeah, I want to see him run the football. I've been looking at some of the numbers for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, they're great against the pass. They haven't really. Okay, actually, Stefan, Ted, I mean, all you guys, I guess. Maybe I'll go with Stefan real quick because you haven't spoken in a minute. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-0. When you look at their schedule, that defense, a lot of great stats coming from it, but it's from quarterbacks that kind of been reserved guys. Is that still something to be fearful of for the Detroit Lions, or should Detroit Lions fan feel confident in Jared Goff being the first true challenge for these guys?
Well, those guys have been sitting up under the helm for a long time, so they got a chance to learn, sit back, watch, and critique themselves. So when you see these guys coming along now, it's something that they've been ready to do. It's just now that the game has slowed down to them. So I feel like Seattle, they did a great job. And of course, they beat Miami. And, I feel like they're doing a good job over there. Now guys are taking that leadership role. They getting their payday, and now they taking that role, and they letting it flourish for them. So I feel like now that everybody now is getting their little money. Well, I ain't gonna say little money. They're getting their payday. I ain't gonna say little money. When they getting their payday now, I just feel like the game is slowing down to a lot of guys, and guys are coming out there and they doing a really good job. And Jared Goff, he's doing well. He's doing good as well. Sometimes it just plays out like that. And when a team lose, everybody kind of like, oh well, everybody got something to say instead of just like letting the cards play out. Like nobody said that they're gonna go undefeated. Like we're gonna lose a game or two, but as long as we make it to the playoffs and win our division, that's all you need.
Well,
Yeah, I think the Seattle Seahawks got a lot of talent, man. They do an excellent job at drafting. Excellent job. Like Pete Carroll, people knock Pete Carroll for a lot of things, but that system they had in place, that staff, that culture, and they didn't really miss on too many players. When they missed on players, it was usually because of injuries, guys getting hurt. Even Kenneth Walker, for that matter. Kenneth Walker's dynamite when he's healthy. As long as he can stay healthy, he's dynamite, but he's a guy who took a ton of carries at Wake Forest, then Michigan State. So by the time he got to the league, he was a little bit worn down. But you look at Mike McDonald, man, I think Mike's going to be one hell of a coach. I liked him at Michigan. I liked what he did in Baltimore. He's predicated off getting that pass rush with 4 guys. Now, when he took over Seattle, the first thing he did was go get him a defensive tackle. And Byron Murphy, probably the best interior pass rusher coming out of his class. You look at what he had in Baltimore with Michael Pierce, and I can't pronounce the other defensive tackles. Yeah, I don't want to butcher it, none of that though. Yeah, but people were under the impression that he was just blitzing all day. With the linebackers, no, he was able to provide an old school way of getting pressure on defense, which 2 nose tackles for the most part. Well, a nose tackle and a 2-tech. And you don't really see too many guys defensively, coordinator-wise, really doing that right now. Now, what he has in Seattle, secondary-wise, is better than anything he had in Baltimore. Like that's a nice set of corners that they got in Seattle. So yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Detroit approaches this game because, we're kind of shorthanded offensively. We don't really have the firepower as far as the wide receiver room to just match up with Seattle and do some things with them. Can we run on Seattle? I think Seattle's smallish in that defensive front right there. Even Byron Murphy's like 6 foot. He's not that big. They got a couple other smallish edge rushers for that matter, defensive tackle tweener guys. But
he might be out too. He's got a hamstring injury, I guess.
I just think stranger things have happened though. I mean, we're not getting too deep into the game itself, but it seems like a lot of times when a team is going through injuries like our team is, the best thing you can have is a home game. Now, I would be really worried if we had to go to Seattle with all these injuries and everything that we got going on right now. But then maybe that's not even worth worrying about because since Campbell and everybody got this ship together, these guys are road warriors. A lot of times they look better on the road than they do at home, which is the sign of a really good team, I think.
So yeah, I think Mike McDonald, he's building something nice in Seattle. I think he inherited a really nice roster. Very rarely do you see a head coach walk away from an organization and leave a roster stock full of talent. Usually they end up leaving it bare. They just got to figure out that quarterback position. Because if you
Yeah.
can pressure Geno enough and not just let Geno, one thing I've noticed about them, when the running game is going, that's when they win. When that running game isn't going, Zach Charbonnet's hurt, or Kenneth Walker's hurt, or Cross, the tackle, is hurt, or Abram, the other tackle, is hurt. Whenever they got that kind of shiftiness going on with them offensively, that's when Geno isn't Geno. Because if they can run the ball, Geno gets in the play action. Geno does have the arm to take shots downfield. He got Metcalf. He's got Lockett. He's got Njigba across the middle, everything underneath. It's going to be a very interesting matchup, man. Like I said, I like Seattle overall as a team. I think they're built similar to us. There's a lot of players in the last few drafts that I think Brad Holmes and his organization wanted, that Seattle also wanted,
Witherspoon.
including Kenneth Walker. I know everybody heard the story about, Seattle taking Kenneth Walker a few spots ahead of us, and Brad Holmes and the organization said that they had a decision to make if Walker would have actually fell to them at that spot. So, yeah, like I said, I think Seattle is it's gonna be a tall task, man. It's gonna be a tall task, but I think we're up to it.
Ted, I gotta ask, because you've worked with Ben. What do you think his approach is towards that Mike McDonald defense? I mean, we see a heavy run game. We see Goff finally kind of open it up this season. What are your expectations with your history with Ben Johnson?
Yeah, with this game specifically, I thought Walt made a really good point. You have to look at it. You have to establish the run game. Why? Because how Ben's going to do this and how he's going to predicate the passing game. He has to marry through the run games. So you're going to start to look at some of the RPO games. You're going to look at some of the run and play actions so he can build off of that. But you have to establish the line of scrimmage first because of that same point, too. And then getting on the back end, John Snyder, their general manager, has done an incredible job of drafting. So you look at the back end, they're extremely talented. How are they going to develop that? And then what you get when you get a new head coach, I think this gets often overlooked too. We're in the first few weeks of the NFL season. You have new coaches taking over an organization. They get new pieces of talent. They get some really interesting looks at schematics, what they could do. So you can look at what he's done at Michigan, at Baltimore, but now realistically, he didn't have the players that he has right now. So the tendencies and the trends, they're really hard to predict because you don't have that body of film and that body of work. The Detroit Lions, the good thing that they have is consistency, but that can also be looked at as kind of a negative because they have tendencies, they have trends. You have multiple years of being able to break down Ben's offense. So now that gets a little bit undated where you get a defensive coordinator and defensive-minded head coach. They're going to look at certain things, and it's easier to break down those tendencies. But I think they have to establish the running game. They have to marry the run and the play action off of that, and then that should open up things and shots down the field. I think the other interesting thing, too, if you flip to the opposite side of the ball for Detroit, how are they going to match up DK? Are they going to try to use this young cornerback and actually travel with them? Are they just going to play straight up right, left? How are they going to do this, and how are they going to attack? Because DK Metcalf can ruin a game. I mean, he can take it over, and you start to look at if Geno is on, and if they can open on the Seattle side up the run game, that's going to be a very tall task for that Detroit defense to hold steady.
Stefan, what are your expectations?
I just want to see a good football game, to be honest with you, because I know it's a lot going on. I know it's a lot riding on this game, and I know Detroit want to do well, and I feel like they have the pieces to do well. I don't really. Only thing like with DK Metcalf, I guess Ted, he can tell you too. When we watch Calvin 6'5", 230 pounds, 240. I mean, he was a dog when he was out there. I'm talking about a straight beast. And when Metcalf came into the league, I just felt like, can he be that guy? Can he be like Calvin and be big, strong, fast? But to me, he's just not consistent to me. He's inconsistent when it comes to his football play. But I feel like Detroit got a good enough team and a good enough defense to match up with those guys across the board. They're bigger, they're faster, and they're stronger from what I've seen. And I feel like they got better quarterback play as well. And if they get that running game going, I feel like your boy Gibbs, he'll make some things happen for y'all. And I think that's going to be the key moment, the key point for y'all to do is establish that run game. And I think everything after that will take its course.
Ted, another thing with you, because you were with Goff as well. This year he's kind of starting off slow. Is that as a normal thing for him traditionally, as long as you've known him?
No, he's actually relatively He's a fast starter, from my experience, especially in some of those years in LA where we got off to a hot start. One year, I think we were 8-0. And when you look at that, that's an interesting point, because the other thing to consider here, Jared was in that division. He knows the Seattle Seahawks. They have a different coach, but you look at the culture. John Snyder's been there a long time, the general manager. That culture is still a Pete Carroll culture. They still have a lot of the players from that locker room. That's an interesting component to this, because Jared never shied away. We actually played Seattle really, really well, and we kind of took the division from them when we were both in LA. And then the other side, I think it was Walt who made this point. They have to fly from Seattle. You're talking about a 5+ hour flight. So you look at the positive side for the Detroit Lions. This is a physiological tough thing to do. So from a physiology standpoint, your body clock is much harder to adjust going west to east. So for the Seattle Seahawks to get on a plane, I don't know if their strategy is going to be to come out on Friday night. That would typically be what we would do. Arrive so you can adjust your circadian rhythm. It typically takes 1 day per time zone. So you look at, they're going to adjust 3 hours. They're probably still going to want to get here at least on a Friday. So you look at that travel fatigue and the impact that has. That's something that you can't discount too. So that's a major factor of this game.
Especially you got Dave Montgomery beating on him. Well, what do you think of Jared Goff's slow start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we go back to last season, he started last season. The offense overall started last season kind of slow. I think he threw a pick, at least one pick in 3 of his first 4 games. They kind of started to hit their rhythm against Green Bay. Then they bombed on Carolina. And then from there on out, the offense was pretty much on their toes. I want to ask you guys this, because I don't want to avoid the question, because I do have some pretty valuable guys on the panel with me tonight. How much of this do you guys think is preseason? And I do understand everybody isn't starting slow. For the most part, I think offenses this year have started slow overall across the league. We're seeing some pretty good quarterbacks look very inconsistent on a week-to-week basis. I think C.J. Stroud is one of those guys as well. Patrick Mahomes, he's been looking kind of not necessarily shaky. I think ever since they lost Tyreek Hill, we haven't really seen that Kansas City Chiefs offense really be explosive since he's gone. Can't really knock it too much because they got 2 rings since he left. So it really don't matter as long as you're winning. But how much does preseason really factor into this? Because like me personally, people think I'm just making too much of preseason. I think preseason matters a lot, especially to like filling out your entire roster. You got young guys who you need to get snaps. You got quarterbacks in situations where some of these guys haven't played football since last December, like week 17, week 18, or whatever, guys who didn't play in the playoffs. Some haven't played since the Super Bowl, NFC, AFC championships or whatnot. But that's a lot of time to go without playing football. And then you're talking about situations where there's too many moving parts in football for 2 or 3 guys to be out doing their own thing somewhere. So you got a situation where a lot of these teams where the quarterback, he's too valuable to play in the preseason. And our center, he's valuable too, so he can't play. And we got an all-pro left tackle. We don't want to get him hurt. So you got none of these dudes playing. You got all these interchangeable parts. You got a third stringer playing with the first stringers. Like, there's no continuity. So now you got quarterback. I think the league has just started slow offensively this year because teams are getting to the NFL season cold. It's like if you take the baseball analogy or the reference, are you going to take a closer out and just throw him straight in the game? Closers don't do that. Relief pitchers don't do that. They warm up for about 10 minutes, 10 plus minutes. And to me, it just looks like, especially with Jared Goff, he's cold. I think the fact that this isn't the same team overall they were last year. The names overall are the same. But this offensive line is a little beat up. They've got some depth issues we've talked about for the past couple seasons. They don't have a bona fide, dependable third wide receiver option. As much as people trash Josh Reynolds was that. He was nothing special, but he was a consistent number 3. So I think there's so much. I don't think it's just Jared. I think Jared plays a role in this slow start or whatnot, but there's a lot more to this that's going on than just Jared Goff.
Stefan, you want to take the preseason? Yeah.
I think preseason is all about timing, consistency, and getting to jail with your guys. That's what I really feel like those guys, at least if you get in the first game, you know, you can give them a series or two, your starters, give them a series or two, so they can gel with each other and, like I said, get that continuity with each other. You know, when you got guys that sit out and haven't played football for a long time, and you got a rookie receiver coming in with a 12-year vet, as far as a wide quarterback, they don't. That timing is not the same. It's not college. I mean, it's not college anymore. It's NFL. That timing is so much faster, and you got a small window to get that ball in. So I feel like that's what preseason is for. It's for your timing, to get that chemistry with your guys, build a connection, build a relationship with them, and also keep your body in some type of shape. Because when you sit out for so many games and you're not out there getting that just the little physical beating on you every now and then, like that really plays a part. Because then you come in the game, like you said, like a pitch, they come in, they cold, and it don't look the same. So that's what I feel like preseason is all about, the gel with each other and to get that chemistry.
Ted, you are well versed in the strength and conditioning realm of everything, and it is truly like it's such a head scratcher because you, like you said, the Chiefs are struggling as well, but they play their starters. What has been your study on this?
Yeah, this is great. I love this topic because when we were in LA, we were the first team in the new age of the NFL. Sean McVay and I, we decided we didn't play our starters for the first time in 2018 in the entire preseason. And that was back when we had 4 preseason games. So the thought, and we got crucified. Like I had to do media stuff behind the scenes where people were asking questions. Why are we doing this? This isn't going to work. Long story short, we went to the Super Bowl that year and basically had the healthiest team in the league. But what I will start is everything that Steph just said is 100% true. How did we mitigate the risk of playing in the preseason, but still get the rhythm, the timing, the connection, and everything else that we needed from that? We built in multiple joint practices. So we had other teams that we would play in the preseason. We traveled to Baltimore that year. We practiced against the Chargers. We practiced against the Raiders. We literally set up these mini scrimmages so that we would have joint practice sessions. And why behind it's more control environment, but you're still getting game-like action. You're getting full speed. You're getting increased amplification of testosterone because you're trying not to get embarrassed. So when you look at some of these things, we got live action games reps, starters in that environment. Now there's certain fights and some things come up from that, but I'm willing to risk that because you can protect players a lot better. I think the other thing that you have to consider, what's the age of your roster? We did this in Philadelphia, but we did it for a very different team. We had the oldest roster in the NFL. We had Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane. We had most of our guys, our high-profile guys, were 10-plus year vets. So you have to protect and mitigate. Steph made, I love this. There's a technical term for it. It's contact trauma. Your body physiologically has to basically recover from everything, whether you're strength training in the weight room, whether you're practicing, you're running high-speed routes, and your hamstrings are getting that acclimatization. Your body has to acclimate from contact. So when you take contact physically, there's muscle breakdown, there's degradation. Your body has to repair that. So if you're not practicing taking contact, once you get into week 1 of the regular season, you're going to increase injuries. And what we always see, going back to this task force work that I've done for the league, weeks 1 through 5, it's the highest relevance of injury that we get for the entire season. So you're coming out of training camp where theoretically you should be in the best shape of your life for that season. And then we have all these injuries jump up weeks 1 through 5 because a lot of guys are deconditioned from a metabolic standpoint, but also from that contact trauma. If you don't practice hitting, you're not going to be able to adapt. You're not going to be able to work leverage angles. And the other side, probably more important, you're not working leverage, timing, and rhythm with your wide receivers, your quarterbacks, and all the offensive skill positions. There's a lot of variables to that.
I agree 1,000%. 1,000% on that, man. It's your body gets used to whatever it's used to doing. That's why we hear people talk about, athletes talk about whether it's basketball or football or whatever. I'm in the greatest shape of my life. I stay in shape all year long. You hear that from boxers. I don't have to get in shape. I don't have to cut weight because I stay in shape all year long. Yeah, but you fight once every 2 years. Like, it's at the end of the day, if you're not playing football, you're not getting better at it. You look great in a sleeveless T-shirt or whatever and some shorts. But at the end of the day, you're still not ready to go play football. I wonder what the injuries look like back in like 1995, where everybody played all 4 games of the preseason, for that matter, man.
Well, you brought up boxing.
Training camp was about 2 months long.
Yeah.
But now the difference is now I think the owners and the head coaches are trying to protect these players.
Yeah.
Because now it's so much money involved. It's almost like that they say baseball. Baseball is not a sport, it's a business. And that's what football has become. It's become a business and not a sport. Guys are getting paid so much money to where the coaches, the owners, the GMs, they're like, man, I do not want to put my guy out there. And you got going against this rookie or a guy that's trying to make the team. He hit my guy and put my guy out for 6 to 8 weeks for an ankle or a knee or a thigh. That plays a big role, and players don't want to risk it themselves, and coaches don't want to risk them. Coaches don't want to risk their players getting out there, getting hurt, making mistakes, and tweaking little tweaks here and there. But the thing with it is, they always say you got to stay ready so you don't got to get ready. You know the risk of when you go out there on that football field. These guys it's mental when you out there on that field. It's more mental than physical. So you got to know, like, when I'm out there with my guys. I'm out there with my brothers. Like, this is what we're going to be doing. This is a part of the game. So you can't want to get paid, but then you're going to tell the coach you're not going to play preseason. And you got fans. I'm a fan now. I want to see my starters out there on the game. I want to see them guys in preseason. Give me a series or two so I know what I'm looking for. And they got this whole what's this betting thing y'all do? What's the betting thing they do with the
FanDuel and
the FanDuel and all that? Y'all got to
Yeah.
put your bets in and all that. I need to know who I'm betting on. I need to know what's going on now. So I feel like all that play a part in playing this football game, man.
It's NFL load management, man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
MMA fighters, I know a lot of guys I used to train with in Muay Thai and stuff like that. They literally break their cartilage and harden like their legs so they could deliver and take like more damage on kicks and stuff like that. That body trauma, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think it is for this Detroit Lions team specifically, though? Is it because Ben's been the hot offensive candidate and that the film is just so much more fun to watch? The teams are coming in more prepared, or is it? Are we just kind of playing rough on offense? I mean, Steph, I'll let you go on this one because you played on the offensive side of the ball. I'll let you go first.
What's the question again? Sorry.
What do you think it is do you think it is the lack of preseason for this Detroit Lions offense so far? Because, I mean, they were on fire the past 2 years or 1.5 years versus this season. It ain't been the same. Is it because teams are coming in more prepared? Because Ben's fun to watch on film. That offense is awesome to watch on film. Or is it just like, are we off? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this offense being slow this season.
I think none of us will have a definite answer, because injuries occur at any time. Your offense can gel, week 10. Your offense can gel week 1 or week 10. It all depends on a lot of stuff that goes on in play. It's a lot of key points and components that play along in this football game. Coaches are getting familiar with guys and say, okay, we want to put you here. I want to move you here. I can do a little bit more with this guy. Play calling change. Players are starting to feel themselves out, and now they're ready for this game, taking this impact, because a lot of the guys on the team for Detroit, they still young. You still got a young group of guys out there, and you got, it's just the chemistry. You know what I'm saying? And as long as they stay on the same page and they're watching film and they know what's going on, I think they'll start gelling at some point, because every team that started off slow. Look at Kansas City Chiefs. They don't even look as good right now, but they always seem to find that fire at the right time, and that's all you need. You need to find the fire at the right time. We don't really need it right now, but when you playing against them division games, that's when I need it when it's time, the important times for the game. That's when I need you to play. I want you to win all of them. But when that division game comes, I don't care if we started slow 2 weeks ago, but this is a division game. I need to beat this team today in order for us to move forward in our division and stay number 1. So, guys, I think don't jump the gun too soon. I just feel like, it's everything gonna gel and them guys gonna be okay. It just take a little time. Jared Carr probably having a hard time right now. He probably got some stuff going on off the field that we know nothing about that he need to iron out too, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the locker room that people don't know, and Tig can tell you, because guys come to him, whether it's with working out, whether it's some family issues, whether it's some personal stuff. We still human. I mean, I'm a fan now too. I play football. I'm retired now, but at the end of the day, we still human and we still fans. And we still bleed just like you all. So we have things going on too that we got to hash out before we get out there on that field.
JG's enjoying his new wife a little too much, maybe. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
You can't enjoy your wife too much
Nah.
now. There's no.
Hey,
You know what, man? I
happens.
think
It
they
Hey, is he a
happens.
freak like that? I mean, I don't know. No.
Nah, I think, man, the key thing is I think they're a good team. That's the main thing I've realized with them. They're at a point now where they can play a C- game against a bad team or an up and coming team like they were 3 years ago. They can, for lack of a better phrase, they're at a point now where they can play with their food. Now we don't want to see them do it. We want you to go out there and take care of business and win 35-10 or whatever. But we see this happen to good teams. The Chiefs have these types of games all the time where you look at them, you look at what they have, and Andy Reid, one of the greatest play callers of all time offensively, Chris Jones on his way to the Hall of Fame, Patrick Mahomes. You're talking about Spagnoli on defense. They've got all this in place, and I think that's a real good reason why they consistently know how to win games. But this is a young core, like Stefan said. This is a young core that started out winning early. Like this team didn't draft Aiden and all these guys and lose for another 4 straight years. Like they lost when they first got a lot of these guys. Then they started winning early. So now they expect to win. So now it's like it's nothing new when they go out there and they play these types of games. They still manage to win games. What does concern me about them now is the fact that offense started slow this season. They figuring some things out now. I think it's more of a personnel issue. Some of the personnel issues that they're having going on right now, but the defense held their weight. Healthy, was still missing a couple guys before they suffered the rash of injuries this past weekend. Now we really need the offense to step things up. Because as soon as AG starts getting all of his people in order, now he's got guys out. So now I think the defense may take a step back. May not, but they may take a step back. We all made a big deal about the bye coming as early as it came. This might be a blessing in disguise for them. Because when we suffered our injuries last season, we suffered our injuries early. And for a team that has a bye week 5, I believe, you don't want to be in a situation where you got to play 13 straight weeks or whatever in order to get to the Super Bowl and all these injuries start coming right now. Tigers 3-1, that's what's up. Yeah, so
Shout out Torque.
yeah, I think they're so talented all across the board. They've got good coaching, they've got good coordinators. And then more than anything else, there's just so much parity across the league. Nobody looks dominant right now. And we just really being honest about it. But the good teams find ways to still win games. And that's what we're doing right now. Look at Frisco. Like I said, Frisco looks like they're plateauing. And they're going through their injuries. And Dallas is 1-2. And Michael Parsons has a show every other day. And nobody likes that in Dallas. And you got, like I said, Philadelphia is a soap opera waiting to happen. And there's so much going on around us. Jordan Love is out for how long, we don't know in Green Bay. We look like the best team in the conference, even though we have our own set of injuries. Right now, and plus I think another thing that's really key for this organization, we had probably the quietest offseason in the whole NFC. It was loud in Dallas with people not getting paid. It was loud in Philly for a variety of different reasons. Green Bay had stuff going over there with them. Minnesota had all the tragedies off the field going on with them. Things been quiet for us. Everybody got paid that was up to get paid. Nobody was holding out. Nobody's disgruntled. Nobody's angry about what position they are on the depth chart. Like everything fell in place for us. And it just seems like this really should be our year. I hate saying that as a fan because when you typically say, oh, it's our year, it sounds real cheesy or whatever. And I'm not saying I think it's our year by default, simply because all the rest of the NFC is struggling. No, I think we're a damn good football team. Whether Frisco was healthy 100% or not, I think man for man, we still match up very well with all the rest of these teams. Philly just scares people on paper. And we being real about it. But if you're talking about outside of paper, the overall culture, coaching staff, do I trust our staff? Do I trust us in the big game right now over Philly? I do.
Ted, what do you think is you think it's a preseason stuff for this offense getting slow started, or more? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think the one thing we haven't talked about too, because Dan Campbell alluded to this at the end of the last season after the NFC Championship game, the Lions are the hunted now. That game changes. It changes dramatically when you get a ginormous bullseye on your back because every team's coming for you when you can't sneak up on anybody. And the injuries play a huge part because you can't discount that when you're missing some of your key players, just like the San Franciscos of the world. LA's crushed right now. There's teams that are dealing with significant injuries for some of their best players, and the Lions are right in the middle of that. But the interesting thing is I like those teams when they hit adversity earlier in the year. You talked about KC. You talk about the teams back when Tom Brady was with New England. They would always struggle at the early part of the year. Those teams that learn and they go through that adversity and then they figure out how to win through complementary football, because of 1 week, it's going to be maybe the defense is 100% healthy and they carry you for 2 weeks. Then the offense gets healthy, then you have an issue with the defense. You miss 2 key guys or a couple guys get banged up for a week or 2. Then it flips. Then special teams make a play. Then your offense has to carry you through the run game or whatever the situation is. So you have to find a way to win. When you're doing that as the hunted, it's early in the year when you face the fire. Those are usually the teams that come out on top later in the year because they've already faced the adversity. They're not going to blink. They're not going to shy away from it. They're not going to flinch because when the big games and the real bolts start flying in playoff season, they're going to show up and say, we've already been through harder stuff. We're going to be just fine. So I think there's a component to that. I don't worry. I'm like, well, I think they're going to get it figured out. I know a lot of the coaches on his staff, a lot of the players, they have the right people in that building. They built that successfully. They built this roster. They built the culture. And Dan Campbell's done a great job of building that. But I think those guys they're figuring out a way to win right now that's going to help them later in the year.
Well, you said we're looking like the cream of the crop in the conference. Those Vikings, man, they're more than pesky, and I think they've been the one dominant team in the NFL. You got to win like the Niners on the resume. You got the Texans win.
The Vikings don't know when to leave well enough alone, man. I've been telling people that for the long. They don't quit. Like last season, after Kirk got hurt, the first thing I said was, "Well, that's a wrap for them. #1 overall pick." And O'Connell said, "Hold my beer." No, bring Dobbs in. I can win with him. Bring Jaron Hall in. I can win with him. The Vikings don't quit at all. They just keep on digging at the end of the day. And I think the Vikings are dangerous, man. Because Mike Flores, as a defensive coordinator, he got that defense looking crazy right now. O'Connell, he's proven it. He might be the new quarterback whisperer.
He really might be, bro.
Yeah. I mean, if he can, this may sound silly, but I drew the correlation the other day. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think part of this could be fate. If you look at the horrible offseason Minnesota had, man, like with all that stuff that went on the last couple off seasons, even with Lewis Seen, it was terrible. Then to lose your first round pick, a quarterback, lose him after everybody else you already lost. For this team to hit the ground running, man, it's looking scary. And they always play us tough. Always play us tough.
Yep.
LaFleur is a quarterback whisperer too. Malik Willis, people put a ball on him. He just went 2-0, no turnovers.
Take that, Will Levis.
For real, man. The NFC North is fierce with coaching, man. It's kind of scary.
Coaching matters.
Now that you're a fan of the game, what do you make of this new look in NFC North?
It's up in the air. I think it's a toss-up right now with a couple of these teams. And I think once they get past some of the things that's going on right now, because of, it's a lot of, like you said, it's a lot of injuries. It's a lot of nobody right now is sitting at the top. Everybody looks like an average football team right now. So it's kind of like when you peak at the right time, I think that's when we're going to see what's really going on right now. There's no team that's, I know y'all say Minnesota right now is dominating, and you know, shit. Look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati look bad. They look bad, but the Vikings, they do look good. I'm not gonna lie, they do look good. They look tough. Sam Darnold over there throwing that rock, he's looking real good. But I think right now it's too early to say. Give about week 7. I think that's when everything will calm down. Teams are gonna gel real good, and then it'll start playing itself out after that. New Orleans do look good.
New Orleans does look good. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
who's the new offensive coordinator? Kubiak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's killing it. Ted, what do you think of this new look NFC North? I mean, Matt LaFleur, he ended up being a bad man. I know you're familiar with KOC. He's a bad man as well. As Lions fans, should we be sweating a little bit or what?
You know, it's funny. I mean, you look, the connections or the parallels are crazy. Matt LaFleur was our offense coordinator in LA in 2017. Kevin O'Connell later became the offense coordinator for Sean. Shane Waldron, who's with the Chicago Bears, who's the play calling offensive coordinator, was with us in LA. So there's all these connections. It's the McVay North, basically. When you look at this, it was all the guys we worked with. But it's interesting. I think what Matt's done in Green Bay, he's done a phenomenal job. You've seen what he did. He made it work with Aaron, with the drama and everything, and then didn't skip a beat. Jordan came in, and I think Jordan's trending to play this week most likely. He'll probably be in a brace if he doesn't play, if he has a setback, maybe one more week. But if you get him back out there, he's not going to be as mobile, but I know Matt will design. He'll cover that up with the scheme. You look at what Minnesota's done, it's incredible because, once again, O'Connell, play caller, genius, Wes Phillips, Wade's son, who was with us in LA as their offensive coordinator. They've put the pieces together, and they've done a really good job. They got a dynamic wide receiver. They really have dynamic players at the skill positions, especially offensively. And you look at what Flores is doing. I know Wall mentioned it. He's doing a great job on defense. And in Chicago, obviously, they're just trying to figure it out. You know, you get a rookie quarterback, and you're throwing between Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. At the end of the year, there's going to be some tight games, and I think there's, you know, I don't see anyone running away with this division, clear cut, but I think there's going to be some exciting football when we get into December.
Amen, man. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. I know we all got families we were kind of talking about before. Ted, I don't know how long you committed for, but I also know you got a book coming out. You taking time away to edit and get right. Why don't you go ahead and take this time and promote what you got going on so we can check it out and keep up with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, exciting time. Got it. I'll have a book coming out here in the next couple months, so keep your eyes out for that. All the social media stuff at Ted Rast Strength Coach. You can follow me there. I have a YouTube channel. Same thing at Ted Rast related videos and some other stuff. Just trying to give people some good content. So we're enjoying the time, man. But mostly I'm coaching flag football for my third grade son, having some fun with the kids right now and enjoying life.
That's awesome, man. What positions do you play?
I can't hear Eazy.
You might have to take over, Walt, if they can't hear me.
No, you was on mute.
Oh, I apologize.
I can only hear Ted.
Can't hear me
now?
either.
Well, it's just a little blip there. Can you hear me, Stefan?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear us too.
Just a little lag. Yeah, I could hear Easy too. That's awesome. Can you promote your foundation? I know we had Spirit of Detroit Lamar on the other day. I was just on his show and I lost $20. I bet against the Lions. I don't know why I do it, but every time I do it, we win. So, but do you want to promote your foundation there? What is it? Cancer Loves, or I can't remember what it is. Stefan, can you hear me?
Mine is Love versus Cancer. So you can follow me on Instagram. Stefan Logan _0. You can follow me on Facebook. Stefan Logan. That's my Facebook name. And Love versus Cancer is the foundation, and that's the support. I'm a full-time supporter of cancer. I'm a full-time cancer supporter for everybody that's fighting, that's going through different cancers and different illness. I'm all about it, man. And we put together a ride that we do for my wife every year. Well, this on the 30th of this year be our 1 year of her passing away last year. So I'm not looking forward to that. It's been a very, very emotional past couple of days because I just know like that time is coming up. So that's the foundation. That's everything I do. And when you follow me, I'm always putting up content with me in the gym because I'm always about your health is really important to us, with all this processed food and everything. So that's a real big thing that that's really near and dear to me. Like I feel like your health is really important. And I remember when I was in Pittsburgh, Ted used to always have us in that weight room, and he used to be putting them weights on us. So it's crazy. I can still think about that from then all the way to now. When I get in the gym, that's something I always play back in my head when I was in Pittsburgh. That that was something that was really important to me. So yeah. So Stefan Logan _0 on Instagram, Stefan Logan on Facebook, and Love versus Cancer. That's the foundation.
Ted, can I have you on like weekly or monthly? At least once a month. You two, I want you two on once a month. Come
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
You
I
got
think
this
I could
was
probably do this weekly. No, this
weekly?
is fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walter, you guys, like you four were awesome. You guys were
This
awesome.
was
That
fun.
was one of the best shows
Tell
I've
her
ever
we
produced.
tried.
Yeah, you guys are great, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
Real quick, I guess from Ted or Steph, whoever. Ted, I'll probably go with you. How was Dominican Sue in the weight room? You got any Dominican Sue weight room stories?
Yeah, I can't
bro,
hear
not
you.
even just a weight. Damo, I text with him today. He is dude, he's a beast,
No,
man.
get him on.
Yeah. Damo he's one of my favorite people. Well, I've been with 4 teams. He's been with the same 4 teams. There's no coincidence. I helped recruit him to a lot of play. He owes me a lot of money. I helped negotiate his deal in a couple of teams. But he's a good dude. He's a beast. What's funny is I had him. Then I had Aaron Donald in LA. So 2 of the best in the last forever at that position. Those guys are just dominant, man. They're powerful, but they're hungry. It's that mentality. Steph was talking about it. This game of football is mental. And when you have the right combination of the physical skill, but you get the right mindset, those guys attack every day. But then through how they play the game, because they're relentless. And he's no different. Aaron Donald was the same. There's been some great guys, and those are.
All right, I'm going to be messaging you for next week there. You guys all in for next week too? Oh, it's a bye week. This is the question I wanted to ask Stefan and Ted. What do you guys do when there is a bye week? Do you take your family and you go on vacation, or what? Because we're going to experience this right away, and then we'll end with that. Are you guys okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Go ahead, Ted.
What do you guys do in your
Go ahead.
on the bye week?
Yeah, from a staff perspective, we're usually working. The NFL put into the CBA, they put into rules, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, players have to get a minimum 5 days off now. Before that, I mean, there were times we only would give guys 2 or 3 days off, depending on the head coach and depending on what they wanted to do schedule-wise. The staff is usually working all the way through. We might get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, sometimes just Saturday, Sunday. So realistically, the staff, you're not flying anywhere. And then if you have guys rehabbing, if you're a strength coach, if you're part of the medical staff, you're in there through the weekends. You don't get a bye week. You kind of show up, you work less hours that week, but you're still there. Most of the players that I've been around, I'll let Steph talk, but a lot of them, some of them do fly. They'll go somewhere warm or they'll back and see. Don't want to risk that because the travel fatigue and just the pain in the butt of the airport and things like that. So it's just a mentally relaxing time. It's early bye week for the Lions here. That's the interesting point because you just kind of had training camp and you're ready to roll at that point. So I like mid-season buys, but I'll let Steph take it from the player's perspective.
From a player's perspective, we fly home. Go home, see your family, see your friends. And coaches always emphasize on when you go home, be safe, have fun, travel, get away from football a little bit because we know that it's a real tough and hard season. So we used to fly home and just have fun, enjoy yourself, and don't do too much. And they always say when you go home, make sure you stay in shape. Don't just go home and just be eating crazy and drinking and doing all kind of crazy stuff. Like coaches would really like get on guys and say, hey, be careful when you go home. Make sure if you was in a bad area, some coaches will tell you they don't even want you to go home if you stayed in the area that they know is bad. But we know we was grown men, so for the most part of it, coaches, they'll let go home, have fun, get away from football, enjoy yourself, but be back on time and ready to go and be ready to work. So players do travel, some do, some don't.
Well, how much weight training do y'all guys do?
I can't hear them.
Now, I was asking, like, well, what kind of weight training do you guys do then during the season? Because you talking about practicing during the week, playing a car wreck of a game on Sunday, then you might have a short week, a game on a Thursday. So, like, weight training wise, how do you balance this between maintaining, what you have and not completely just destroying tissue and having guys out there sore and eventually lead into more injuries?
That's a good question. Well, a lot of teams, you're looking at 2 to 3 training days a week. Most of the time, we would bring players in on Monday. A big part of that is because we're trying to flush some of that soreness from a metabolic standpoint. So we want players to come in, but we're leveraging things like pool recovery modalities. We're putting guys into ice tubs, doing hot, cold contrast. And then we're using things like BFR, blood flow restriction, some of the newer technologies that have come out. Our second training session would be somewhere around midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, depending on the game day. And then we would typically have an upper body primer on like a Friday. We'd get fuller stimulus because practice is much less and it's a really slower tempo on that Friday. They could typically call it Fast Friday. That you're training the whole team, but it's multiple days a week. But to your point, you don't want to continue to just degrade some of the connective tissue and joints. You're trying to balance that. That's where some of those new modalities and technologies come into play.
Well, man, shout out your podcast and where people can find you.
If he asking me a question, Daisy, I can't hear what he's saying.
Oh yeah, just make sure y'all hit us up on YouTube. Type that exact phrase in right there, Lions Avenue. We are either live streaming 3 to 4 times a week, uploading twice a week. YouTube Shorts, we cover everything Detroit Lions. We're talking about the draft as well. We usually start our draft coverage around week 7. We usually start going through the roster, trying to figure out exactly. Yeah, we start going through the roster, trying to figure out what are some of those potential holes and areas of concern that the team probably will be looking at come draft time. Because that was another question I did have about, like, even from a scouting perspective. Do they get the cues from like Brad Holmes or somebody else as far as during the season? Hey, listen, we need you guys to take a look at this amount of defensive tackles or this amount of corners or what's going on with the safeties in this class. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they look at their team and already know, hey, next April we may be looking at something in this area, that area. So
yeah, that's another good question, Walt. A lot of the times you have scouts on the road since training camp started. Like those guys have been on the road pounding pavement. So even literally right when we finish the draft, you have guys going into meetings and saying, all right, next year's draft board, here's the early guys. Because when they're going across colleges, campuses around the country, they're scouting juniors and sophomores. They're putting together a multi-year and a multi-layered draft board. And Brad, I know without a doubt, is doing that. So you're never off. As a scout, those guys and those departments have gotten bigger and bigger. They're working nonstop around the clock. They're getting the next year's draft board ready.
great stuff.
There's great stuff. If we're doing this again next week, I can't wait. Either way, I think I'm going to reach out to each one of you guys individually and try to get you in the heavyweights too. If you guys aren't familiar with me, I'm Eazy from the Woodward Heavyweights. We're live from 5 to 7 Monday through Friday. And I think it's a great panel, Darcy. Thank you for having me, man.
No, well, this is the whole thing, right? I don't get paid for this. Can you hear me, Stefan?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah,
I can hear you. I can hear you and Ted, but I can't hear Walt or Eazy.
Well, the problem is you're stealing Walter's internet. You guys are next door neighbors, right? No, easy. You're going to the game, right? You're sitting in my seats, and I got some more seats. We're gonna hang out with TJ Lang right in front of the Fox Theater. We have a good tailgate there. The Macho Man is always down there. We have a lot of spiral stuff going down. Well, I got a couple extra seats. Are you interested in coming to Monday Night Football downtown Detroit?
Come on, Walt.
Man, I got to work Tuesday morning. You know how long it's going to take me to get from downtown?
They'll understand.
ESPN going to be there. Everybody's going to be there, man. It's going to take us
you
forever.
You already told me you only sleep 5 hours. This guy works hard.
Yeah, I do. I only sleep like 5 hours a day.
No, I know he does.
Ted, is that bad?
This guy, no.
Yeah, Devontae Smith said it works for him.
Listen, Ted's at all the drafts. Ted's at all. I'm Facebook friends with Ted for the last couple of years, and Ted's at the draft and everything. Get Walt into your circle there. I'm telling you, Walt knows his shit.
I love it.
I know a little bit, man. I'll pay a little bit of attention, man.
Oh, we got one last comment, and we're gonna go. Let's finish it up here. Thanks for everybody that's coming on. Can't wait to meet you, Eazy. Can't wait to meet you there. And thank you, Ted. I'll message you. I
Absolutely
got Ted's
appreciate
cell
you,
phone
Dustin.
number, so
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
Ted, it was great.
you know it's good.
Same.
White flex.
Appreciate it, guys.
Hang on. Fucking oh shit. There it is.